Okay, guys, I usually don't make videos like this ever, and for the most part, you won't. But I have watched Deep Fat Fried and now their Onion Nuggets version for years. I've watched TJ since 2010, uh, and I've watched Vaush since both in 2019 since his inception. I saw his character change, which was great because he used to pretty much shit on trans people the whole time. But I don't know. Before I play this video, I have to rant about some background here. So if you don't know this guy, he, he's very edgy, but he's very good when it comes to communicating his points. He was a leftist advocate for a while, um, and he did have democratic leanings, unfortunately. Like, you had to start somewhere within the system, but unfortunately, it's the system that fucks everyone over. Anyways, probably doing this terrible justice talking about this guy, but lately, he's been going on this weird anti drug rant saying that people who do drugs aren't trustworthy, which is absolutely insane if you ask me. Like, he said it was not about necessarily trust, but about health. But nobody would ever say they don't trust somebody on a personal level because of health. That rhetoric doesn't work that way. Like, nobody. How do you spin not trusting somebody who does drugs as a health thing? Um, but a chatter actually suggested to Vosh, like, okay, what if they're not harming anyone or stealing? How would you still not trust them? But Vosh didn't think those were reasons, and so continued to say he doesn't trust them. Anyways, this is disturbing, at least for me personally, as someone who likes to think of themselves as not super into idols. And so, Vosh kind of got me into talking about politics for the most part. And like with the readings that I do, I kind of implanted some of his ideology and thought style into that. Now, to a very limited degree, since he is mostly civics based and has a lot of intel about and where his degree actually plays most of the heavy lifting, I believe. So I thought, you know, it was an interesting shift from always watching TJ to watching Joe Rogan, and then Joe Rogan left and went to Texas, and that didn't really bug me compared to Vosh's character change now. All right, here we go.
For this without getting triggered. Yeah, man, you don't agree with everything he has to say here. Yeah, that's true. I mean, TJ. Oh, TJ left. You know what, Paul? I'm here. I'm still here. Oh, okay. I thought you left. I'm just maybe Paul. You've been uncharitable. No, you've been mean. You've been maybe Vosh been mean to you for sure.
I've been bad faith.
You know, maybe this is the time if you fucking really listen, Paul. Clean your fucking ears out and hear what he has to say. You guys can find some common ground.
My dude. I am going to be good faith.
Yep,
I'm going to listen and respond directly to these arguments. Okay?
You look, Paul, you're a very emotional guy. You know, maybe that passion, emotion sometimes just takes you.
So obviously, I'm watching this through Onion Nuggets. Um, you know, I'll probably edit sections of this out a little bit, but for the most part, this is just an organic watching of this. Now, I've actually watched this like multiple times because this actually blew my mind. Now, I don't watch everything Vosh posts. Like, I started to agree with mostly everything Vosh said for the most part, so I didn't really have to watch him anymore. But lately, I started to disagree with him, and I actually liked that, and I thought it was cool that I had some disagreements with Vosh, even though they're kind of petty and silly distinctions of agreements. Anyways.
Further down the road, and if you listen to the logic and the reason of these arguments, you will invariably see that Vaush is correct and this is the correct path. I hope that happens. By the way, Scotty, before we even start this, did we make the... I know we made the Vaush goal, but I don't know. Did we make the infomercial goal as well? All goals made. All goals have been made. Okay. Good to know. We'll still accept your money, though. Don't think we're still accepting money just for pure greed. All goals are made, so no one worry about the goals. But for the sake of pure greed, we will still.
So TJ, the spinning onion. Now, anyone who's following me obviously knows who these people are, but for anyone who's new and doesn't, and is just watching this randomly out of context, TJ, the dude in the middle with the spinning onion, he's a big fan of Vaush, and the dude at the top, Paul, he is very antagonistic towards Vaush because his experience with politics back in his day was what he's seeing now is cyclical voting for blue no matter who, and so this is actually background to this scuffle that's been happening with them lately, which is whether or not voting means anything. And so there's this like silly scenario where it's like 99% Hitler versus 100% Hitler. Who do you vote for? Because Democrat, Republican, the status quo is basically genocide no matter what, based on the neoliberal deregulation of the markets attack on the third world and all this other stuff that's actually happening, versus fascism that is right beneath us in America. And it's just crazy. But I believe Vaush he's choosing not fascist, thankfully.
They'll take your
but
delightful money, but you
still
have no
not
more
good.
goals to fund.
My dude.
My dude. I haven't. By the way, Paul, I've not done that song, but the reason I haven't done it is because I've thought about it too much, and it needs to be a spontaneous thing that just comes from the moment.
It does.
I mean, I could have done this whole but I kept thinking about it too much. I was like, my dude, my guy, my dude, my dude, my guy. And it's just like, no, it's too.
Dude, you know what you should do? A Vaush cover of Goodbye Horses.
I don't even know what that is. What is that?
That Q Lazarus song that fucking the Buffalo Bill listens to when he tucks his junk back.
Okay.
The left is allergic to pragmatic, effective behavior. Sorry, what was that? Did you guys hear that?
What was it?
Okay, this is weird, but obviously, like, there's this whole, like, horse, like, joke with Vaush, because, dudes are obsessed with the size of dicks and whatnot. The usual. This isn't literally a bestiality thing with Vaush, just for clarification. It's just, I don't know, either way, it's pretty horrible no matter who's taking that.
Background there?
No. Should I play it back? I'll go back.
Hey, I'm just hearing things. The left is allergic to pragmatic, effective.
Was that a horse?
So you heard it too?
I mean, maybe.
Sorry.
Let's go back one more time.
I mean, we're trying to be in good faith here, but I'm confused.
Once more. Yeah.
The left is allergic to pragmatic, effective.
It's weird. It keeps. The horse comes in at a different.
Like a
every
slightly different time every time. It's very strange.
Strange horse. Nay. I point out
the left is allergic to pragmatic, effective behavior. I literally saw a tweet just the other day with like 50.
So, guys, you all know this meme where it's like, why I left the left, and it's usually for something petty. Like, there was this why I left the left because a knitting group was being mean to this chick, and so she voted for Trump to spite that political ideology. And so Vaush is framing his anti-left sentiment because of some petty online dispute. Now, obviously, there's ways to be organizing, like canvassing and getting together in various forms that aren't just online. The online world can't just be your metric for how the world necessarily works.
50K likes that was like, the ceasefire now crowd is failing the same lesson that the defund the police crowd failed. And I thought, like, oh, okay, are we going to say we need, like, lower our standards? Because I don't think, like, ceasefire now is that bad of a goal to argue for. And then it continued. We need to stop kowtowing to the establishment and bending over backwards. We need to stop watering down the message. The real message should be destroy Israel now.
So I agree with Vaush that this is kind of cringe and silly that young leftists are saying, and it's a shame young leftists are getting wrapped up in socialistic, communist rhetoric. And even if they are anti-democratic establishment, anti-status quo, they shouldn't be getting wrapped up in these side tangents. They just shouldn't. They should honestly be against the establishment, but it's hard to explain because it is actually very problematic. You just start joining cliques that and advocating for things that you might not even know what you're talking about. And so the defund the police thing, that was mostly to get the conversation started. That wasn't meant to be literal and take away all police. That didn't mean that at all. But obviously, the way it sounds to the greater public is very alarmist, you know? And just like Israel being genocidal to the third world, or sorry, in the Middle East, like since it historically Israel shouldn't have been created, but it makes no sense to advocate for tearing it down now. That wouldn't make sense at all. It wouldn't end well.
50K likes or something. Like,
I mean, I wouldn't go so far as destroying it. Just move it to Wyoming.
Can I ask you a question, bro? Because you're way more you, TJ. And okay. Scotty too, but I know Scotty's not a social media guy, so I'm asking you. Mm-hmm. Why do these motherfuckers care? Like, what gets likes on Twitter? Like, why is Twitter?
It is a shame that, like, being online and everything that's revolved around being online, not being able to be online, that angers so many people, and it is like this artificial threat to national security that we've created by getting people hooked to the internet, having it be worldwide, wrapped up in people's lives, and when you take it away from people or make any inconvenience on it, it's like you affected their lives in the real world. And to some level, this is true. I'm not advocating people just get offline and touch grass. It's a shame that this is a national crisis for children. When back in my day, my mom put child blocks on my computer, and not being able to go outside, that was my punishment. So it's just so twisted what's happening.
This dude's barometer on like politics and life.
As a Twitter addict,
yeah,
and as a Vaush watcher, and for some reason, even though I know for a fact that Twitter is not really all that reflective of reality, when I'm on Twitter, I'm convinced that it is reality.
I agree with TJ. When you're on a certain platform for a while and you're just sucked into the dynamic and the drama, it does become something you sort of play with. And it is the real world. These people exist to some level, I guess. Maybe the magnitude of the person online isn't really who they are in real life. Anyways.
That's the weird thing that you saying that confirms my suspicion that it's like an alternate reality game over there. Right?
Yeah.
It's like a place where you and everybody else can pretend that their opinions on shit has super fucking dense, like, realistic weight in the world.
Yeah, and the more hearts you get, the more powerful your opinion becomes.
And when something that you don't disagree with gets a lot of hearts, it's like, fuck, we gotta make a video about this right now, you know? What a weird little fucking subculture.
I think it's just questioning, like, why would this idea even have any influence? Like, I think it's like the shock of...
I think this is not just a Twitter problem. I don't think that's the argument they're necessarily making. I mean, because we're talking about Twitter, but this is broadly just an internet make believe, like get angry and not do anything at the end of the day type of issue that is strictly just online.
I think it's suspicious that he's not showing the tweet itself because
why would anybody have animosity towards Israel? I can't fucking imagine.
Well, not only that, but if the
Okay, I'm gonna be real with Paul. If it wasn't for social media and what we're being able to witness at a global level, so this is where I disagree with Paul. If it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for the media right now, nobody would know what was happening to Palestine. They would be just genocided into the wind. Nobody would give a shit. Israel would just still be the one-dimensional thing we feel bad about because Jews had the Holocaust happen to them by Nazi Germany. And that's all we would know. We wouldn't know about this other layer of questions, like the Palestinian question of the Jewish genocide. Or, sorry, the Palestinian genocide. But, anyways.
Tweet really says what he's. I mean, maybe he'll show it later. I don't know. I haven't watched the whole thing. Yeah, perhaps. But if the tweet really said something that incendiary, and this whole video is prompted on, I'm gonna react to that. Why not show us that tweet? Did it really say that exactly in those terms, or was there some fucking more nuance to it? I mean, without seeing the tweet itself, it's kind of hard to say. But I don't know.
Go out there and protest, destroy Israel, or end Israel, or whatever. Incredibly effective.
So I agree with Vaush here that this is ineffective because, as I've been saying, I feel like if you're out of context with this, not explaining the full scope of things, even though nobody's really explaining themselves 100%. That's on the spot, nobody's doing that. But saying destroy Israel could literally mean some bad shit at the end of the day, like actual Jewish anti-Semitism. Now I say that because colloquially we mean anti-Semitism for the Jewish people, but Arabs, Palestinians are Semites too. It's an ethnic distinction. So
effective political messaging that's going to get you far. 50K likes.
Well, apparently it did get him far because it got him 50K likes, right? So
and it got him featured in a
50K might not be that much, but anyways, I gotta digress.
Video. Look at how far-reaching this opinion was.
What the social media game? Social media game is get attention. That's what Vaush is doing here by responding to it. So it's say, why would someone make an incendiary statement, an outrageous statement? It's to get you to respond to it, to get people to talk about it.
It's over the phone to save their life. So I don't know. I do hate it here. I do hate it here. I think that in terms of...
What does he mean by I hate it here? Like Twitter, the online world, being a part of the leftist space while not being a leftist? What is he saying? Comments in the chat.
Elected or trying to stop bad people from getting elected.
Comments
the only people that are
in the
really
comment
worth
section.
Your time are liberals. You can move the left, the young left vote, and I'm not saying leftists don't vote at all or don't participate at all, but they need to get dragged along by the actual...
So this is actually insane. This is him actually fully admitting, at least to my anecdotal evidence, him flat out saying, stop being a leftist, just be Democratic. Just be a Democrat.
Yes, Paul?
Did he just say what I heard?
Here, I'll play it again for you. This was, by the way, the moment I knew I'm pulling this for Paul for sure.
Destroy Israel now. 50K likes or something. Go out there and protest, destroy Israel, or end Israel, or whatever. Incredibly effective political messaging that's going to get you far. 50K likes, most of which I assume are...
So, I feel like Vaush has been trying to move leftist rhetoric to not seem as revolutionary, to fit the political establishment, and sort of install his way of thinking if there was a hidden way of thinking that he hadn't given us already. And this is his way of saving face, I thought, in the midst of Twitter leftists advocating for Israel be destroyed. And so I don't know if this is him trying to be like, this is too Hitler-esque or something. I don't know. I can agree that it sounds bad, but making this your metric, again, this is so stupid. Making this your metric for how leftists should advocate is so stupid. Now, young leftists should leave communist, socialist ideology. Now, you can use the mechanisms of socialism and communism if you want to, if it fits well within a non forced sort of way. Now, obviously, the status quo will always see what you do as force, but I think openly advocating for names to be destroyed, like destroy Israel, that's too on the nose. Now we can talk about very specific things, in my opinion, that I don't necessarily have in my mind at the moment that we could talk about that isn't advocating for like things you could check on a list. Just I just think it's very problematic, and Vaush is he knows his audience is kind of I don't know. There's some of his audience are very young, maybe naive, down bad, because we live in a very lonely world, and I feel like it's easy for Vosh to manipulate his audience like this.
Teenagers and people who couldn't order a pizza over the phone to save their life. So I don't know. I do hate it here.
Vosh is right. I hate ordering pizza. But nowadays it's just easy.
I do hate it here. I think that in terms of like trying to get good people elected or trying to stop bad people from getting elected, the only people that are really worth your time are liberals. You can move like the left, the young left vote, and I'm not saying leftists don't vote at all or don't participate at all.
Okay, so this officially means Vosh's "What are you, a fucking liberal?" has to die now. We can't. This used to be something that Vosh used to say. What are you, a fucking liberal? And that meant like screw the law. Just because it's lawful doesn't mean it's good. It doesn't mean the institutions are good. They need to be changed. The rhetoric of destruction should not be what we say because that's just what the opposition wants to use to see you as the boogeyman to be causing chaos in society. Yeah.
But they need to get dragged along by the actual power group.
So, young leftists need to change their rhetoric, but this is not the way. Joining Democrats, even if it's your own opinion as a leftist to vote Democrat, vote whoever you want.
Let's drag the riffraff like
Paul's trying to even process this shit. Like, I can see the gears just a turning.
On second thought, it's more like don't vote at all if you're talking about Paul's rhetoric towards Vaush, which things have gotten more progressive, I think. Like, trans rights, gay rights, unions that Biden recently established, but he could take it all away in a second. And I don't know, these are all culture wars that we shouldn't even be debating on anyways, while people are starving home, like can't feed themselves or house themselves, and all the money is being funneled into the military as usual. But I don't know, we're on the edge of ruin more than usual.
Is this like a meme? Is he gonna be like, just kidding, guys, in a second?
Oh, you
Or
wish.
So his opinion is the only people that it's worth your time to politically advocate for are the Hillary Clinton liberals? Is that what
in terms of like trying to get good people elected or trying to stop bad people from getting elected, the only people that are really worth your time are liberals. You can move like the left, the young left vote, and I'm not saying leftists don't vote at all or don't participate.
Let me ask you a question. Rather than do what I normally do, what is the charitable interpretation of this take?
there actually is not a charitable take if we're still going to consider Vaush a leftist. Like, this is the most character switch I've ever seen. Now, I don't know if this is a grift. I hate when people use that as an insult because Vaush has always been talking about how you should vote Democrat. And that's always raised eyebrows from me. That's raised eyebrows from the three of them. I mean, anyone who's watched Vaush and is a leftist isn't necessarily socialist or communist, doesn't use that rhetoric necessarily. They would have their eyebrows raised from just Vaush's stance as a socialist that you should vote Democrat. Like, that's crazy.
I honestly
Because you know
have
what
no
my
idea.
my instinct is to immediately go like, well, that vindicates me, because I'm on record 3 fucking years ago saying I feel like Vaush is like pipelining radical leftists into liberalism, and I feel like he just kind of did that, right?
Paul, follow your instincts on this one. Just go pragmatically, Paul. I think you just need the most likely candidate to win. Remember what your doctor ordered, Paul. Remember what your doctor ordered. Yeah.
Vitamin Democrat.
I mean, look, I don't like being right about shit like this. I really don't. Because I know there's a lot of young people that look up to this.
I was actually really against Paul for a bit when he used to rant about Vaush. Like, I was super defensive. I'll admit that, actually.
Dude. But he is indistinguishable on a number of really important issues from fucking Rush Limbaugh, dude.
Trump would be worse.
This type of shit is so far outside of the fucking socialist paradigm or the revolutionary paradigm. This is just straight up like, let's make the same mistakes our parents did. And I don't know how I could charitably interpret this. Like, if maybe there's some, like, I know it'll be claimed that I'm taking him out of context or that I'm not. So maybe we should listen to a little bit more, but
Paul has been paying so much attention to Vaush, actually. Maybe he doesn't watch full streams. Like, who the hell has time for that? But yeah, I don't see how you could lose context from something this direct. This is a full segment. This is definitely not out of context.
Yeah, we can hear more.
Right at all, but they need to get dragged along by the actual power group, and that's liberals. When it comes to like ideological activism, the left is a little bit more useful, but when it comes to anything even remotely tied to
Okay, so like you basically like Paul, you're the pipe dream, but when it comes down pragmatically, the liberals are the ones who control the Democratic Party. They're the only viable option because Trump is basically fascism or a pipeline to fascism, or at the very least just terrible.
So I've heard, and this might be somewhat true based on everything I've read, that. So based on the morals we learned along the way from population engineering and uh, IMF and World Bank teaching just to say no regardless, not in a moral consent way, but just in general. I would say that the forced establishment of the neoliberal ideology and intuitions and deregulation of the market, screwing everyone over, combined with neocons blowing everyone up overseas. Meanwhile, neoliberals are contracepting over everyone overseas, and all our money is just getting transferred over to that. All our resources are being wasted. So, for some reason, there's just these twisted, sick fascists that, for good reason, see they're being screwed over by the system, by the elites, by the rich, no matter who they are. It doesn't matter to them. The conspiracy of who's attached to that, gay people, people like trans people, everything that's connected to their conspiracy that needs to be removed by the fascist hand that they think will cure it once you destroy the rich elite. And so it's kind of, I think it's well known that there is like a response from fascists based on being screwed over. And so this is also a big worry because most people know that we're all being screwed over, but we need to be in this together. But fascists aren't about being in it together necessarily.
Presidency, like it's gonna draw us even closer to the precipice of destruction. So basically, like, you're allowed to do that ideologically, but pragmatically, you're not gonna win. Is what he's saying. You're not going to win. Your ideas are bad.
Right. Don't waste any time in the real world with any kind of revolutionary ideas. Just suck it. Like, it's basically the same.
Yeah, we can have an academic debate or discussion about it, but that's
right. But when it comes to actual action in the world, you need to do everything you can to vote for liberals and nobody else.
For the actual power block.
Even if there's a third-party candidate that's way closer to you.
Well, then you're going to spoil the chance of that person because the election's so close. If you do that, you ensure the other side, who is bad, is going to win. So
he's talking about voters, not politicians. He said liberals. They're liberal politicians. They're not like super liberals or some other group.
Well, you can go back.
He's saying like the entirety of the power structure, which is overseen by the politicians. I'm not misinterpreting this.
So obviously liberals will always come off like they care about our rights more than the Democrats, more than the Republicans. But in the end, they really don't care. Like, the Clintons have said keep abortion rare, so they're not as mask off about how much they want to screw you over. Just saying.
I don't think. I'm listening to what he said. I heard what he said. This seems pretty on brand for me.
And Nancy Pelosi saying stop focusing on the trans issue because it makes the party look bad. They don't care about you.
Although it also feels like he's saying the quiet part out loud really hard, and I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, is he going to go like
this has been Vaush's position. I mean,
right, but he's never like just explicitly like.
This isn't a revelation to me at all.
The only thing politically worth your time is just cyclical voting for liberals. That's
what he advocated on this fucking same show for hours.
Right, but he didn't say it explicitly. He tried to dress it up with all of this like fascism is around the.
Yeah, he tried to say like lesser of two evils. Voting for Democrat is better than voting for Republican. It's overall it'll be better in the future. Though it's still not better voting for a Democrat or Republican, though obviously people are still starving under Democrats, so I don't know. Even though it's Republicans who are voting against like free meals for school, so you'll never see a Democrat be voting against free food, but they won't sign up for it either in the background.
Corner my dude.
To me, it's like splitting hairs. Cause I've always thought this is Vaush's position since I've heard him. But I mean, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying, like, to me, it's obvious.
So he's like baby's first leftist. I don't know. He's just out there like draping himself in the aesthetics of revolutionary leftism, but ultimately just funneling people into the Hillary Clinton fucking mire. Is that what's going on? Am I wrong? Like, I don't know. I'm willing to be challenged. I'm looking in the chat.
I mean, he does distinguish that he does. I mean, like, I don't think he dismisses it entirely, but for all intents and purposes, practically, he does. He does say it's like, well, it's not going to happen. That's not what the power base of the party is. That's not who's going to win elections. So even discussing that or trying to boost those people.
Personally, voting third party, anything other than the two-party system, is pretty useless. Just like voting, if you're looking for actual substantial change, is pretty useless. Now, again, under democracy, we've gotten gay marriage, and I guess Biden did some union shit, but I don't know. We're on the precipice of collapse. These seem like niceties at this point.
Is a waste of time because they're not going to win.
Action.
Does someone agree with me on your Rush Limbaugh. I pointed out several positions that Vaush...
A behavioral collapse in our country. Like, never mind the debt ceiling that we keep having to fix, but we're having basically almost a civil war, it would seem. And now this Israel-Gaza situation is making people even louder about their politics towards one another, which is actually really interesting.
Taken, and not like old... I don't want to be accused of, like, combing through old, edgy Vaush stuff. This is, like, in the last couple of weeks.
I thank Paul for that, actually, because there's a lot of people who will attack Vaush and bring up something he said like 4 years ago. Like, nobody should listen to that type of person when they bring up something that they don't even agree with anymore. Like, off the internet. Jesus Christ.
Vaush has come out as anti-drug, and you shouldn't never trust a drug abuser or user. He's done this now, which, you know, like, if you understand anything about American politics, you realize that liberals and neocons are really not that far apart on most issues. He's pro-war, super fucking into the Houthi bombing shit going on. Like, I know Rush would have been as well. Like, I'm not conflating him with Rush Limbaugh baselessly. I'm pointing out some pretty big conservative positions that Vaush seems to parrot. So if you want to, like...
Vaush's positions, very strong positions, kind of had me think of Jean Kirkpatrick, I think Secretary Ambassador of the State of the United Nations or something, and she would often talk about how the left are pretty, like, insane when it comes to foreign policy, because, like, at least how it currently is, Western world and the UK have always destroyed the Middle East, created intense chaos, like unimaginable suffering and death. So to be like cosmopolitan and like economic and trade and expecting these people to care what we think when we're destroying their cultures, having open borders and accepting those people into certain countries that allow this suffering of these people that we're allowing in happen at all, like, it just seems so silly. Like, it's cyclical. We bomb you and then we welcome you in with a fake smile. It's insane.
To feed that argument, you're going to have to go back and say Rush Limbaugh never said that, or Vaush means it differently, and explain to me how.
How about this? Can you think of a living person, analog on the right that you could compare? Because I mean, I think with Rush, you're always going to get, well, Rush is dead. Who knows what the fuck?
Okay, well, I say Rush because he was the big fucking, but like go Tucker.
Okay, Tucker.
Tucker would be anti-weed. Tucker would be fucking pro-Houthi bombing. Tucker's a traditional neocon fucking mouthpiece. And I don't know, like, how you reconcile hearing a fucking point come out of your radical leftist streamer that could have came out of the mouth of fucking Tucker Carlson on a normal night, on a Wednesday night on his show. You know,
I mean, I guess you could say, we're being charitable, Paul, you probably had some takes that agree with Tucker Carlson. There's probably takes you have that if we played it, I mean, you probably, like, you know, let's say Tucker said he was pro-union. I mean, I can't imagine you saying, well, Tucker's wrong. I guess you could say it's insincere. But if Tucker espoused the same, I mean, so if we're trying to be charitable to Vaush, we could say maybe if we took one of your takes in that.
Yes, people string up truths to propaganda their own, like, ends.
You know, at least with some reasonable amount of context, you agree with Tucker. There's probably some issues you guys agree on. I guess you could say that.
I mean, like, I'd be hard pressed to think of a social issue or a political issue that Tucker and I are fucking in total lock, like a contentious issue. Like drug
contentious one. I don't know.
Drug use is usually pretty fucking contentious, and it's pretty right-wing to demonize drug use and drug users and to fearmonger about drug use.
I mean, we see that with Fox News covering, San Francisco and other cities on the West Coast. Like, they're just homeless
to treat all drug indulgers as a monolith, is pretty fucking right-wing, and that's exactly what Vaush did. I'm not being uncharitable. Vaush has labeled anybody that takes, the impossible standard, the inscrutable standard of, when does drug use become habitual? That's the only qualifier he used was habitual drug use. You can drink up.
It really doesn't seem like it's possible that Vaush is actually going full, like, Republican almost. How is this possible? Like, the drugs take, I was blown away by that. Like, I kind of agreed with some things Vaush had to say towards the chatters, because I agree, there's a lot of drug addicts will be defensive, but people, you're attacking their lifestyle, of course they're going to be offensive, no matter if it's harming them or not. Like, people will just get defensive.
A fucking a drink once a month and be a habitual drinker. If you have a habit of drinking once a month, you're habitual. So, where's the line on that?
I guess it's a distinction of what are you considering a drug and what do you... I mean, you're talking about, drugs taking over someone's life. That's a health problem. Of course that's not good for somebody.
It just ignores the history of drug users being some of the most innovative scientists, artists, politicians, public speakers, comedians.
Well, that's recreational drug use. I mean, obviously there's a distinction between someone who's hopelessly addicted to drugs.
There's a lot of habitual drug addicts on the list of people I just mentioned. A lot.
Oh, I mean, of course.
Vaush was actually using this anti-drug rhetoric and putting weed up there with, meth and stuff, but keeping it separate from caffeine and, Adderall and stuff like that, which, again, it's arbitrary because everybody's body is different. The reason people use it are different. If it's prescribed to you, that might not always be a good thing. If it's not prescribed to you, again, that might not be a good thing that you're taking something that's not prescribed. Some people shouldn't be on anything, or things in society should be fixed, but yeah, I mean, for the most part, it does seem to blur the issues and just go along with your day and get back to work while you're hopped up on the drug to ignore the issues in society. I don't know. It kind of seems like that sometimes.
It just ignores reality. It's a total Republican talking point, and it's coming out of Vaush, and he's being confronted about it, and he's doubling down on it.
Debating whether or not to jump ship, as it seems to be going the way of the SDS. Soaked on Left has made the argument that if enough Vaushites join the DSA, it can be shifted over. But I genuinely wonder whether or not it's worth the effort, or if it'd be better to just let the DSA float off into irrelevance and wait and just
I, a fucking socialist, wonder if it's worth the effort to direct my growing fan base to join socialist organizations, or just to let them die.
Basically, let them die.
Because the DSA are worse than liberal. Most leftist groups are worse than liberals.
Huh? Wait a minute. We're talking about the Democratic Socialists of America, right?
Yes.
They're worse than liberals? They're worse than the liberals that wrote the crime bill that put a generation of black men in prison. They're worse than the liberals that continued and expanded the fucking...
Vaush is pretty much only advocating for the lesser of two evils status quo, despite it being a genocidal, unregulated neoliberal nightmare, because he's being defeatist